Back to the Dean Obeidallah show. Right now, very happy to welcome Governor Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky. It's in his second term. He's the new chair of the Democratic Governors Association. Also hosts a show right here on SiriusXM Progress on the weekend, Andy Beshear Podcast, 11 a.m. Saturdays. Governor Beshear, nice to meet you. Thanks so much for being on.
Excited to be on. Thanks for inviting me.
Sure. I have to just say as a quick aside that I'm Arab American, and many people in my community think you're Arab American because Beshear means like good tidings or good omen. And I tell them, no, it's from a French Huguenot name, Beshear. But still, deep down, maybe I shouldn't tell them. They'll be, okay, he's one of us. But you may have heard that before, but I think it's really interesting because I've had a lot of people say, he's got to be Arab. I'm like, he's not. You know,
I have. We've got a strong Arab American community in Kentucky. That helps out in so many different areas and have gotten to know so many of the different leaders, but have heard it before.
That's right. No, and people don't realize there are Arab Americans in the South. The Rahals, who were famous Democrats, were Lebanese Americans, and they're the racing team as well, but Congressman Nick Rahal and others. So let's talk about things that are unfortunately less pleasant, and that is Congress has left. Speaker Johnson sent everybody home. The Senate is even gone. And the ACA subsidies are officially going to end on December 31st. They're going to cause a great deal of pain. What's the impact in your state of Kentucky?
Well, there are about 100,000 people that are going to see their health care rise significantly, it maybe even be unaffordable. I mean, it is so wrong that this Republican Congress would vote yes to extend a tax cut for the wealthy, but votes no to extend tax credits for hardworking Americans to afford health care. They just simply will not stand up for their constituents, and it really just magnifies the impact of the big ugly bill. You look at the big ugly bill, it's going to decimate rural health care and hit urban health care really hard. It may close 35 rural hospitals in Kentucky, fire 20,000 plus healthcare workers, kick 200,000 people off of their coverage. And when the local rural hospital closes, so does the local restaurant, coffee shop, bank, and insurance agency, because that's the number one payroll in that community. And when you think about people losing their private health insurance through an exchange, that's actually a better payer to that same rural hospital. And so it's just going to magnify the effect that's going to it's going to hit rural America like a sledgehammer.
And I saw that Kentucky is one of the states that might suffer the most hospital closings. I imagine the Republican elected officials in your state see this happening. Is there any outcry from them? Because the rural areas, there are Democrats and Republicans, but we know it tends to be more Republican, meaning they're hurting their own supporters.
Our county judges, most certainly. They understand what's on the ground, and I will tell you the way I work with them, there's no Democrat or Republican. We're just trying to create jobs and build roads and make sure you can see a doctor in your own community, lift up public education, improve public safety. But then you look at our U.S. senators, you look at our House of Representatives, you look at our state legislature, and not a word. Somehow, people have just lost their backbone and will put loyalty to a president over duty to the people that you swore you'd represent. I mean, I think about how Brett Guthrie, U.S. Representative, pushed through the big ugly bill, and all the hospitals he has in his district are rural hospitals. The EV credits that he eliminated are going to result in, at least for a period of time, 1,600 people in his district losing their jobs. Now, my goal is to get every single one of those people placed in a job. Why? Because I'm putting my people over any type of politics.
And, that brings us to the economy. I mean, Donald Trump said we have an A+++. I think it's 3 pluses he used. In addition to screaming at America on Wednesday, which in essence, that speech to me is like, how dare you not be grateful for what I've given you? That was really the takeaway. And he's talking about renaming the Kennedy Center after himself and his $400 million ballroom. I've never seen a politician at his level be this out of touch. It's almost intentional malpractice. What is going on in Kentucky? What can you share in terms of, farmers, small business owners, families? What are they going through now?
Well, first, let me say, as chair of the DGA, if Donald Trump wants to continue to say that affordability is a hoax, if he wants to continue to claim that prices are going down, I hope he goes to every state we have an election in and says it in the microphone. I'll even challenge him. Get out there on the campaign trail, bring it on, host a rally in all these places. You just make sure you keep saying affordability is a hoax, because the American people are struggling and they know their reality. A completely out of touch president, that'll break through any and all partisanship. Now, in Kentucky, we've seen the impact of tariffs. Our soybean farmers have been hit hard, but we are doing better than most. Moody's just came out with a study. They said if every state was its own country, where would its economy be? About half are in recession, more than a third are flat. We're still growing. And that's really exciting for our people. So we're wrapping up our second best year ever in terms of private sector investment. Our average incentivized wage will almost be $30 an hour. But I'll tell you, we would have accomplished so much more but for this president. I even remember in January, he zooms into Davos. He insults everybody that's in there. And we saw an immediate impact on foreign direct investment. These are companies in other countries that create good jobs in the U.S. For instance, the largest Toyota plant in the world isn't in Japan, it's in Georgetown, Kentucky. Then we see the tariffs and the price of building, say, a new $300 million factory could float 30% because of those tariffs. And you saw some projects pause, you saw some be reimagined, more of ours pushed through than others. So I'm really proud of what we're doing in Kentucky, but I am worried about the rest of the country. And I see and feel the headwinds caused by this president.
And I recently spoke to a farmer in Ohio we just had a lieutenant governor-elect in Virginia, not far from you. Talk about farmers and this kind of perfect storm of adversity where you've got the not being able to sell soybeans. Now that's kind of lifted now, but still there's a debt there. Trump's bailout not really being really helpful. It's $12 billion for us, $40 billion for Argentina. And ICE terrifying the workforce, even people who are documented, weary about getting jobs on the farms. And they're going through some difficult times that even those might be managing now in Kentucky. Who knows what next year is going to bring? What are you seeing in terms of the farmers?
Yeah, I wish that those weren't the only struggles that this administration has hoisted on farmers. The elimination of U.S. aid and all those programs eliminated a very large market where we were trying to create goodwill throughout parts of the world by helping people not starve. Now, to me, my faith from the Last Supper to the fishes and the loaves tells me that food is life-giving, and if we've got the ability to prevent people from starving, we should. But that was a market that was then eliminated for a lot of our farmers. Then the Trump administration decided they didn't want our school children to have healthy local food and cut the farm to cafeteria program. And then came the soybean tariffs, where that tariff war against China pushed China to buy soybeans from Brazil and Argentina, which, oh, by the way, we were sending $40 billion to as they were taking our soybean market. What we don't know in the future is whether that Chinese market will come back or whether we've lost a big portion of it to those two countries. You cannot replace the Chinese market for soybeans because it is so big. So a bailout may help in part for this year. But if those markets are gone, it'll be solely because of this president who says he and he alone decide these tariffs. And a lot of families are going to be devastated. But let me just say, farmers are proud people. And the idea that they're not going to be able to sell their crop and that they're just going to have to take this money from the same guy who caused it is hard on a lot of them.
I have no doubt. And also, I think it's a great point you make that it's not in a vacuum. When Trump cuts billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, Republicans did, for example, SNAP. We had the government shutdown, it comes back out, but now we have a real cut coming. It affects local businesses. It affects food stores. It affects the local farming community. It's one thing that it's interrelated to so many other places, and people don't bring that out. I think such a great point you're making here.
And let me just add on SNAP, my goodness, this president is the first ever in the history of this country to refuse to fund SNAP during a shutdown. He had the legal ability. They even said it on the website. But he wanted to use starving Americans as political leverage. So I went to court along with other AGs and a couple other governors. We got a ruling saying he must partially fund it. And I tell you what, I had state employees that came in at 9 p.m., worked to 3 a.m., so the next day people could purchase the food. I mean, just incredible people actually living out their faith and values in the way the president was not. But then we got an order saying, no, no, you got to pay the full benefits. And he went to the Supreme Court so he could refuse to do that and leave more people going hungry. Next, he comes to states and says, I want the personal sensitive data, social security numbers, and all the rest from everybody on SNAP. Well, number one, when we collect that, we promise that we'll protect it. And number two, the reasons that they claim they want it have been changing. I'm not going to give my citizens information to the federal government unless the law makes me. So he tries to cut off SNAP for a bunch of states there, and we go to court and protect it again. But the miracle of the fishes and loaves is in every book of the gospel. It means it's pretty darn important that people have enough to eat, yet this president doesn't care.
You think maybe he hasn't really read the Bible and is not really down with the whole principles of the faith that he says he is part of? I mean, I have to be honest, I've never seen the selfishness of an individual like Donald Trump. Forget politics. Like, this is a deeply selfish person, and it bleeds into cruelty. Like, he's that selfish where he doesn't care about the pain of others, mocking economic downturn by calling it a hoax, and now pretending that the unemployment rate is real. It's his own administration. It's went from 4% to 4.6%. That's under him, and it's getting worse. And I know you've been fighting him really hard. You just had a FEMA victory in federal court on getting FEMA funding. Again, that's for people in dire need. Have you ever seen anybody this selfish and self-centered and not caring about people?
I've never seen this level of cruelty really in any level of politics, but certainly not in the presidency. The money he tried to cut that we just won, the FEMA dollars, it's for resiliency. I'll give you an example. In Eastern Kentucky, it floods a lot. In 2022, we lost 45 people in what was almost a biblical flood. We flooded twice this year, both in February and in April. Huge, significant floods. Some of that money was for warning systems. Because these come at night, and that's when the most people die. I mean, these are dollars that are absolutely necessary. Oh, and they're also part of a law passed like any other, where Congress says that this shall happen, and then the president just ignores it.
He does, and he'll probably want FEMA named after himself before this is over.
I also think it's not just the policies, it's the words. His post on Rob Reiner, and it could be anybody else. Right. It's not that it's Rob Reiner, it's that the president's post failed any test of leadership or basic decency. You just had two people ripped from this world in a very violent way. Yet he's going to make it about him. He's going to insult that person that's gone. And it wasn't too long ago that he was reacting very negatively if other people did the same.
Right. And, and Rob Reiner was a great filmmaker and an activist. He's was on my show numerous times over the years, and, someone we will miss. And it was really jarring and to see that post. I want to turn attention. You wrote an op-ed for Washington Post last month. There was a great line in it that you wrote, "Tackling affordability is not enough. To truly lead again, Democrats must be the party of aspiration," which I love. That I think under Obama it was hope. And I think aspirations been lost. What do you mean by that? And what should Democrats do?
Well, it's got to be more than, again, just the term affordability, though we ought to be laser focused on it. I think this is about the American dream. Mm-hmm. Now, right now, so many Americans think that it's no longer real, that it's a hallucination. We've got to make sure that we reignite and refuel it so it burns bright in the minds of our American families. It's as simple as it is powerful, that if you work hard and play by the rules, you can get ahead. That's what's propelled our country for so long. So we've got to make sure that we are working to increase wages so you can not only pay the bills at the end of the month, but you can take your family on that vacation that you grew up going on. We've got to address housing, because now the average age for the first-time homeowner is 40. I mean, that should be unacceptable. You should be able to buy a house in or around the same age that your parents did. We've got to continue to invest in our American infrastructure so that people get to work and to school and to church safely. We've got to make sure that the American dream is that we feel safe. Not that the statistics say that we're safe, but that we feel safe, and we don't engage in stunts like sending the National Guard to walk the streets, but we actually hire more law enforcement. We reduce recidivism by teaching skills in prisons. We have interventions with youth. We put in the hard work so that when people look at this country around them, they say, okay, I'm going to get out there, I'm going to work hard, and I know I can get ahead and leave my kids better off.
And the American dream, what concerns me so much are younger people I talk to, that there's a sense that it's lost. Like they look, it's not only delaying milestones, it's almost the idea that it's cruel to dream because it might not even happen. And unemployment among young people is awful. And AI is going to add to that. We all know this. As governor, is there anything you can do in Kentucky or for the Democratic Party would you advise nationwide to address the need of younger people for more opportunity?
Yeah, you deliver results. You deliver results that are real. The signing in the Rose Garden, that's no longer real to people.
Right.
But a new factory that pays $40 an hour in a community changes everything in that community. So there's a town, a county called Henderson in Kentucky, former coal mining town, had been a big Democratic stronghold, was turning very red. I won it by 500 votes in 2019, and I thought that was the last time. But we brought a Pratt paper plant, 350 jobs, $40 an hour. I won it by 1,500 votes in 2023, even though Trump would be plus 30 in my state in 2024. When we deliver and it's tangible, you can see it and feel it and touch it. People are willing to have hope, to believe that there's a better life in front of them. But we've got to get dirt on our boots. We've got to get out and show the work. And we've got to take this to the American people. And by the way, when we do that, let's talk to them and not at them. Let's make sure we're communicating in ways that have meaning and that we're listening as much as we're talking.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about you won re-election by a much bigger margin. You won the first one against Bevin. It was like less than a point, I believe. The second time. So it's all about results, people getting to know you and seeing that you're delivering on promises. That's the key for Democrats going forward.
I think that's a big part of it. I mean, my first statewide race was Attorney General. I won it by 2,201 votes. Then I won the governor's race by 5,500 votes. Now, thankfully, the third time was right. Much bigger, 5% in a state that Trump would win by 30 a year later. And remember, immigration and inflation were worse in 2023 than they would be that next year. So listen, Democrats can win everywhere. Conversely, if they had the right policies and were showing they care, Republicans could compete anywhere. I actually think we would be a better country or we'd be in better shape if that was the case in more parts of America. But I think I'm living, breathing proof that if you care about people, you get results. You spend 80% of your time on things that impact 100% of the American people. You talk like a normal human being, and you show your authentic self. You explain your why. People will vote for you.
And last two questions. You've talked a great deal about the division in America being a threat to our country. How do we find common ground without sacrificing our own values on issues?
You don't have to all have the same position on issues. You just have to be able to talk about not just the what, but the why. Mm-hmm. So Democrats are real good at the what. We can quote policy down to sub-point 3, bullet point 4, but we rarely talk about our why. When I was running for re-election, my state legislature passed the nastiest anti-trans bill that the country had seen. It removed any decision-making by parents for their children's health care. These are people who'd always been talking about parental rights, but they removed every parental right there. And I thought the bill was mean. I thought it was cruel, and I vetoed it. And they were ready. They had tens of millions of dollars to run these negative, nasty ads. But when I explained my veto, I said, my faith teaches me that all children are children of God, and I don't want people picking on these kids. If the General Assembly is going to show them hate, I'm going to show them love. If they're going to show them judgment, I'm going to show them acceptance. I didn't lose a point. They ran tens of millions of dollars of anti-trans ads. By the way, we ran ads about the economy. and how we were creating better jobs. And guess what happened? We won.
Yeah, when the economy is an issue for people, the so-called red meat issue, the cultural issues don't mean as much. And also, I want to say, you vetoed the anti-DEI bill. I know it got overridden, and you stood your ground on that. And you've been great standing up to for the Muslim community. I'm also Muslim, not just Arab American. For the Jewish community, as minority faiths, we have so much in common in this country. That's so vitally important. So last thing, and since it's SiriusXM, I have to ask about your show, Andy Beshear podcast. So what's coming up on that, and what can people look forward to hearing about? I know it's already been running on Saturdays, but in case they haven't caught it, an opportunity to catch it.
So we are Saturdays on Progress at 11 a.m. And then you can download the podcast on the SiriusXM app. It's a fun show. We've had guests on from Steve Kerr to Tyler Shuck, the starting quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. We had Amy Klobuchar tell a story about how a Thanksgiving turkey lost its pardon from the White House. The episode that just dropped yesterday has Aaron Parnas, the political commentators called the Walter Cronkite for Gen Z, and Walker Montgomery, up-and-coming country music singer, son of John Michael Montgomery. So we go from uber political, talking about the issues of the day, to talking about what life on the road is when you're trying to work your way up in the music industry. So we have a lot of fun. We normally have a conversation with a couple of my friends where we try to go through and process the issues of the day. One's a Republican, one's a Democrat. We're all from different backgrounds, but just trying to show America that if we can sit down and have these conversations with our friends, we can sit down and have these conversations with people of another political party.
Yeah, we can find common ground on certain issues. Certain issues we can't, but you could be respectful on it, disagreeing. But certain issues, polling shows like big money in politics, SNAP benefits, ACA benefits, having health care for all Americans who are all cared for, we can find common ground. It's some people don't want us to find common ground. But Governor, it was great meeting you. I hope you'll come back on, and wish you and your family a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I look forward to hopefully chatting with you in 2026, my friend.
Thanks for having me on. I look forward to coming back.
Thanks, Governor. Take care.